Hi, everyone. Welcome to Prepare to Pass for SBL. Can you all please quickly confirm if my voice is clear? So there's this chat window. You can answer through that chat window so that we could officially start with the contents for today. All right, that is great. Just give me 1 second and then we'll start with the basic. All right, that's great. So the session was supposed to start at 8:30 Pakistan Standard Time. So some of you might have joined early, but that's fine. Okay, now, first things first. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so there's a set of handouts which are there. Can you all see the handouts section on your portal? So there are 5 handouts which we will be using for today, not at once. So there are a couple of things we'll be starting with, and then eventually we'll move to more elaborated thing I will be telling you. But it's best if you could download these handouts beforehand so that we could get as much as possible done today. All right, now let's start officially the content. Okay, so there are a couple of housekeeping rules. So the first thing is that if you have any question, just wait for me to ask for the questions. I'll keep on asking for your questions at different intervals. But if you already start asking the questions, I might not be able to, cover them because I won't be able to look at the chat window all the time. Is that okay for everyone? All right, great. But of course, in order to keep the session active, I would be asking a lot of questions and I would want you to answer through the chat window. So there will be quick questions, nothing fancy, nothing something which you have to type for. So very quick questions. So keep the session interactive, keep it live, and I will be asking the questions at different intervals, as I said. So now let's move on to the content. All right. Okay, I've just sent a message in a chat window, if you guys can see that. So yeah, there is this chat window and then, yep. Yeah, so if I have to send a message, I'll be doing it like this. All right. Okay, so before we start with some of the important things to discuss for today, if I quickly ask you a question, how would you rate your preparation for SBL? So I'm assuming that each one of you is going to be attempting the December 21 exam, right? So how would you rate your exam preparation? So if you have to define it in a percentage form, what would you say? Okay, Adnan. 6, 40, 50. Oh, 70%. 80, that's great. 40, barely started. Okay, Rabia. And what about the rest of you? So there are so many participants. I would like to, see more answers. 70-30. Okay. All right, so that gives me an idea. Actually not, because there are so many mixed answers. So the good news is that we do have good 20 to 25 days before your exam, and this is enough time to actually prepare for an exam of ACCA. But yes, if your exam technique is right. So with this session, we will be focusing on a lot of things, especially on exam technique. So let's have a look at. Oh, okay. So I have to introduce myself. I'm Fasiha from Scan School of Accountancy. I have been associated with ACCA tuition, ACCA teaching for last more than 14 years now. My areas of expertise is most of the time the management accounting and strategic business leader exam for ACCA. So that is about my introduction. Now let's quickly discuss the objectives of this prepare to pass session. So I have three things in mind which I will have to tell you before we actually start learning some of the concepts. That the key objectives for this prepare to pass session are: number one, we are going to learn together the exam technique for this particular paper. So the exam technique will be a lot of things actually. I will be talking about them later in the session today and throughout these 5 days time period. So the first thing we will be focusing on is to learn the exam technique, because you must know that SBL is an exam which is 100% based on exam technique, and you can't actually do well in the exam if the exam technique is missing, right? The second thing which we will be aiming to achieve through this session is the practice of questions, and the practice questions will be from the past exams. Today I will be doing quick questions as well, but those questions are for another purpose. The main practice will be done through past exams. All right. And the third, and again a very important aspect, is that together the exam technique and practice should lead you to the exam success. So overall, the main purpose, the main objective of this session is going to be to make you understand and to make you learn the techniques which could make you pass the exam conveniently. All right. So that's the objective of this session, the prepare to pass session. Or just give me a quick minute here. All right, so there are a couple of questions which are there. So far, we don't have any WhatsApp group. I will be sharing my email ID, Mohammed Wakas. You can use that email address and can drop an email if you have any query after these sessions are over. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the exam format of SBL, which most of you, actually I should assume that all of you already know, but just to emphasize on few things a little more, let's go through the exam format. Are you all ready? So our exam format, discussion will actually include some of the exam techniques also. So the learning starts from right now. Okay, so as you all know that SBL is an integrated case study exam, which will have number of assignments and tasks. Now these tasks, assignments, or actually in simpler words, I should say requirements, will vary at each examination. So for example, in one of the past exams, there were 5 requirements, and in another past exam, there were 3 requirements, but all requirements mostly have subparts to them, right? So have you got a chance to have a look at a past exam of SBL already? How many of you have actually seen and solved a past exam? So I won't expect you to, that you have solved the exam in a lot of detail, but just saying, so you're familiar with the main idea or the how the exam looks like. Okay. Okay. All right, Rabia, so no problem. We'll be able to, cover past exams every single day. So you will get familiar with what the exam has for you. Okay, now moving onwards, the students will have to take on different leadership roles in your exam. So in some of the past exams, there was only one leadership role given throughout the case study. And in some other past exams, the students were given different roles for different requirements. So you can expect anything in the exam. The leadership roles you will be given are going to be strategic. For example, you may be asked to, work like a consultant, or let's say project manager, internal auditor, senior manager, etc. But they are going to be always the leadership roles at strategic level mostly. All right. Oh, that's understandable, Mubashir. It's all right. I just wanted to have an idea whether you guys are familiar with the exam structure or not. So I'm going through it. If not, today is the day to learn about it. Okay, the total number of marks are 100. And what score do you need to pass the exam? Yeah, so there's no doubt about it that you need a total of 50% marks, and that's the aim, that each one of you should be able to reach this mark 50% where you pass the exam. So that's the objective, and that is what we will try together to understand how to reach this particular goal. All right. Okay. Each task, so whenever I say task, it means the requirement. So each of the requirement in the exam will contain some professional skills marks. So how many skills are going to be tested throughout the SBL exam? So each requirement will have some professional skills. So the professional skills are a total of 5. And do you know that all 5 of them will be tested in each exam? So you can't say that only 4 will be tested or 3 will be tested, all 5. And for how many total marks? 20%. So do we realize that 20% marks are a lot of marks, and they can add materially to our passing the exam? So we need to learn about these professional skills, and I will be discussing about these professional skills marks a lot today at least. Yeah, excellent. So Ans has actually named all the skills, which is great. Okay, a few more things you need to know before you start your preparation properly. So each requirement may contain a format to be used. So there may be one format for all requirements within, or there may be one format for one requirement for all parts within that requirement, or there might be separate formats for each part. So that changes with every exam attempt again. So we need to be ready for anything. But what are the different formats that can be tested in the exam? So they can range from writing a report, briefing notes, briefing documents, letter, email, memorandum, etc. But there's a whole variety of formats you need to be familiar with, but at a very basic level, so nothing fancy. But do you know that if you do not follow the format, you lose some marks? Do you know that? So let's say if there are 4 different formats tested in your exam and you're not able to, follow them, then you will lose marks from professional skills. So roughly, when you do not follow a required format, you lose 1 professional skill mark per format. So it's very, very important to follow your formats. And for that, there is a technical article I have provided you in the set of handouts for today. So can you quickly check and tell me if there is a handout on formats which says the technical, let me check. It says examiner articles dash formats, right? So this is a technical examiner's article which is kind of telling you about different formats and how you should be following them. And this technical article is very useful because the examiner is applying the different formats which he's talking about in the article on one particular specimen exam, which is specimen 2. So read this article and you will learn a lot about different formats, as well as if you're able to cover all the past exams by your exam date, then you will be able to revise all the relevant formats. So we have like around 9 or 10 past exams of SBL available so far. So if you go through all of them, it means that you will be able to cover actually all of the formats and revise all of the formats. So is there a plan to cover all the past exams before your exam date? So how many of you, kind of promise with me that you will be solving all the past exams along with practicing of the exam technique and examiner's report and all those things, right? So the aim and the direction should be right, and then we have a couple of days actually to sit down and prepare for the exam really well. Okay, that's great. No, Basa, there is no WhatsApp group for SBL. I will be sharing my email ID later. All right. Absolutely. So Rabia is saying that she's thinking of practicing more than learning the content from the book, and that's the way to prepare SBL, isn't it? So once you cover the entire syllabus, then move on to practice straight away. Okay, now let's come back to the exam format. So you guys must know, if not, please note that all of the requirements in the exam, whether there are 5 requirements or 3 requirements, any number of requirements that are going to appear in your exam are compulsory. No choices, you have to complete all the requirements. Moving on, the exam is a 4-hour duration. I think that makes it slightly more different from other ACCA exams, that we have to actually sit for 4 hours and then prepare for basically write the answer, read the question, make sense of the requirements and all of it. So I'll be talking more about how to handle a case study, how to split our timing, etc. once we get to the case study, and we'll be starting the actual detailed case study practice from tomorrow. Today we'll be doing some exam techniques and we'll be learning more about professional skills marks. All right. Okay, so the case content and information is given in the exhibits. Normally, they can range from 7 to 8 to more exhibits. Every exam attempt may have different number of exhibits. So what are exhibits in simpler words? Exhibits is the case study information presented in very, what should I say? The information presented in real life work documents, and those exhibits can come from a range of sources. For example, interview with staff can be given as one exhibit, then survey results, organization reports, press articles, website extracts, integrated reporting extracts, emails, memos, spreadsheets, pictures, figures, and you name it. So the exhibit actually exhibit the information which is going to be used throughout the case study to write the answers. Okay, now I will stop here and will ask you if you have any questions. So if you keep on asking the question throughout, when I'm speaking, if you're asking the question, there's a very high chance that that question will be skipped. So please don't ask questions when I'm speaking. All right, now you can ask your questions. Okay, there's a good question from Muhammad Adil. He says that how many mock exams do you recommend? So I would say you should be doing at least 2 to 3 mock exams ideally, or less depending on how you are preparing it. If you're, learning, working with a learning partner of ACCA, or if you're doing it on your own, but 2 to 3 mock exams in written form you should be doing. And the best thing is to get the feedback on your written script and manage the time also. How can you access the handouts? The handouts are there on the portal. They are uploaded. Can you see the heading or the head saying handouts? And then there is this number 5 mentioned in front of it. So that's where you can access them. Yep. Oh, okay. Niranjan has a question that any specific areas to focus on. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but let me be very clear here. Everyone, are you listening to me? Focus here. There are no special areas to focus on for the exam. Cover 100% of the syllabus content and you will be fine in the exam. Do not pick and choose your topics. Cover everything, entire 100% syllabus. All right. Okay, Nikita, 1 month is absolutely fine and enough to pass SBL, but your exam technique needs to be very right. So start from today maybe and work throughout the next 20-25 days till your exam, and hopefully you'll be able to prepare it properly. How can we get the mock exam feedbacks? For that, you will have to get enrolled with one of the learning providers, because I think every college, every institute has a plan to provide mocks and feedbacks for the examiner. Unfortunately, feedback on the written scripts is not the part of this prepare to pass session, so I cannot exactly help you in that. Salman, that I will tell you, just hold on. How can I see the chat? Okay, if the ACC organizer could help here. So Elana is asking, how can she see the chat? Can we get all 5 days handouts? Okay, Muhammad Adil, I will ask and let's see if they can arrange it. But every day you will be given a case study, basically from past exams. So how much time should be spent on one question? So Asma, can you please tell me if you're talking about writing the question or just preparing it, and not writing it? What strategy should I took till exam day? Okay, Salman, I will be sharing a quick study plan with you guys on the last day of the discussion. So that would be my suggestion, how to prepare your exam, and you can stick to that and maybe, mold it according to what you have to add and then can stick to it. So I will be, sharing that, and there are a lot of questions coming in. Okay. Technical articles. So Ikra, I think it depends. If you are following any textbook or notes, then I think check for the new articles, or maybe the articles on technology aspects. They are very important, but I think just have a look at all the articles and choose yourself which area you think you need more information on. Yes, absolutely, Rabia. For the December 21 exam attempt, you have plenty of time to prepare for it. So don't worry about it. Okay. Mohammed, Ans, this fear is a real thing. And I think the more practice you do, the better you will get. And, try to think positive about your exam. And when you are practicing, just tell one thing to yourself, that you are practicing, you are doing your best, so you'll be able to do the exam. So give your best and just don't think too much. No, there is no WhatsApp group here for SBL. There are no specifically very new articles recently, I mean, in last couple of days, but yes, there were some articles. I will be discussing about them later, Rukaya, if that's all right. Yeah, so there are syllabus changes as well, which happened in September 2021. All right, guys, hold on for a while. Let's do a little bit more and I'll take more questions. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will be discussing the syllabus changes. So everything is planned. Let's just stick to what we have to do. So hold on for a while for questions. Next. All right, the big question. Why do students fail in the exam? So I'm going to be discussing the most important and the common reason for failure in SBL, and I will be sharing some of the tips to overcome them. All right. So if you are going for the exam for the first time, or even if you're repeating the exam, for both, this is going to be useful and helpful. All right. So I have got 5 areas or 6 areas which are the common reasons for exam failure. The first one is the students sometimes are not able, actually not sometimes, a lot of times the students are not able to understand the requirements clearly. And that is the dilemma, because if you misunderstand the requirement, you will definitely be writing a different answer which the examiner did not ask you to write. So that is going to get you absolutely no marks if you misunderstand the requirement and write something else. Yeah, make sense? So understanding of the requirement is something we need to spend some time on, and we need to be, very, very careful about. Okay. Now, how to overcome this, or what are the suggestions? So I will be telling you 2 things. So number 1 is stick to the requirement verb. What is the verb of the requirement telling you to do? So sometimes the examiner will ask you to explain something, analyze something, assess something, evaluate something. So always look at the exam verbs. So understanding of requirement is definitely crucial, right? Often students fail because they write a different answer, as I said earlier. So they need to have good understanding of the requirement verbs. And one very important aspect is dissecting the requirement. Now, what does dissecting the requirement means? Are you all listening to me? Please confirm through the chat window if you're all with me. I can't see you, so that's the only way. I need to know if you guys are working with me. So understanding of the requirement, what am I supposed to do, and what is dissecting the requirement means? Now listen carefully. So let's say your exam question says, analyze, let's say, the control weaknesses and give suggestions. So can you tell me that there are 2 parts of the requirement? What were these 2 parts? I just said analyze the control weaknesses and give suggestions to improve. So there are 2 parts of your requirement. Number 1 is, need quick answers in the chat window, please. Discuss the control weaknesses, identify them from the exhibits, and explain them, that why do you think they were actually a weakness. So that's the first part. What's the second part? Give practical, relevant recommendations that how you are going to overcome those weaknesses you just discussed. So this requirement has 2 parts. We all agree? Yes? Now, if in the exam pressure, you understand that you have to explain the control weaknesses, but you overlook the fact that you were supposed to give the suggestions also, and then you say that I was under a lot of exam pressure, that's why I missed it. but you need to understand that taking pressure of this type can actually make you misunderstand the requirements, and some of the times you absolutely forget about one particular element of the requirement. So what will happen if I, let's say, forget about one particular part of my requirement, or I forget about covering it because I was in a lot of exam pressure? I will lose maybe half the marks, and that can cost me my exam. So do we want to do that? Can we take that kind of a risk in the exam? What do you guys have to say about this? I'm trying to make you a little emotional here, that please don't make this mistake, which a lot of students do. Unfortunately, Rabia, a lot of students do that. And then, they fail the exam, unfortunately. So I hope that because we have, kind of covered it, we will not be making the same mistake in the exam. Okay, so dissect your requirements, and the best way is to make a mind map of the requirement, or maybe a summary of the requirement. So I will be doing that practice of making a mind map and a summary and dissecting the requirements, all of it, once we get to the case study. Okay, next we have, so students may have poor reading, planning, and comprehension skills. That is what the examiner says, that the students fail because of these poor reading, planning, and comprehension skills. The one thing you can do to improve all of this, I always tell my students to concentrate while you're reading and planning and writing your answers. Don't think about anything when you are practicing a question. Don't use your phones, don't sit around people. Sit in a kind of exam environment when you are practicing for a case study, so that you are able to concentrate. When you are able to concentrate, you are able to extract relevant information from the case, and then you are able to write better answers, or answers which can get you most of the marks. So concentration, I think, is the main, I would say, the tip. So you have to read with full concentration to identify relevant information, then spend sufficient time to read and plan your case study, and try to integrate basic points with case study information. And and also you should be reading the exhibits or the information with full concentration, but also while you're reading the exhibits or information, you should also keep the requirements of each question in mind, as this will help you to identify which tasks will be drawing on the material in each exhibit, right? So you need to have that reminder of the requirements, or maybe the summary of the requirements in front of you, so that you know what to look for in the exhibits. And yes, the last thing, which says integrate basic points with case information, this is basically that students should be alert for links between different exhibits, reinforcing significant issues. For example, there were ethical issues that were to be discussed in September 2018 exam. They could also use reference from ethical risk of the company highlighted in another exhibit. So sometimes you have to get the information from multiple exhibits, but that clearly means that you have to read the question with full concentration. All right, another reason for failure of the exam is poor professional skills. So as you said, that professional skills make up 20% marks of the exam, and these are material. This is a material percentage. So what are you supposed to do? You need to properly know how to demonstrate each skill. So learning the definition of the skill would not be enough. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you don't just need to learn the definition. Okay, that's the starting point, but you should learn how to demonstrate each skill in the answers, and then you should be again writing your answers and get the feedback on professional skills performance. So written practice and feedback are the only ways to improve this area, honestly. Another very important aspect why some students fail the exam is poor time management. So what's your suggestion how to manage time in the exam, especially when the exam is a case study? So any ideas? Okay, so Ruqayya is saying that we should allocate time for each question, whatever the exam allows, and once the time is finished for one particular question, we should move on. Do we all agree to this? That we should allocate time for each requirement, and then we should be, completing the time and moving on to another requirement. And if we have left something in the first requirement, then we should save time in another requirement and come back maybe, right? So that's one thing. And 1 mark equals 1.8 minutes ideally. Yes, this is a little different in SBL. 1 mark gets 2 minutes. That's cool, right? Even more. Okay, so Fiza is asking what if we haven't completed in that time, then maybe move on to the next requirement and come back to that requirement by saving some time in the next requirement, Fiza. What do you say? Can we do that? But we should spend fair time on each requirement. So sometimes the last requirements are very rushed through requirements, which is not good. You don't get a lot of marks like that. Yeah, so time should be allocated according to number of marks. And how much time should we be spending on reading the case? Asma, I will be coming to that. So just hold on. Let's get to the case study first and we'll discuss all of this. Can we write in reading time? Yes, you can if that approach suits you. But I will be sharing the examiner suggested approach in terms of timing and all. So that's coming up. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's true, Ruqayya. I agree. But sometimes we have to, also work on the number of points to complete our exam. But yeah, so I have read all the suggestions and all of them are quite fair. But we'll summarize, all the information we're discussing today by solving a case study. Okay. Yeah. And what do you say? Should we have the same pace throughout 4 hours, or should we be more, our speed should increase towards the last part of the exam? Ideally, what should be the way? Same pace or faster at the end? I think we should keep the same pace throughout the 4 hours so that the quality of the answers is at the very same level, right? Yeah, so yes, there are things which are beyond control. So let's say if we are running out of time and we have to complete the exam, then we naturally get faster. But what I am suggesting here is, everyone listen to me carefully. I'm suggesting here to be very vigilant and be very fast from the very first minute of the exam and do not wait for last 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Is that clear to everyone? Yeah, so that's the approach you should be aiming for, and that comes with practice only. Otherwise, it's very hard to, manage time in the very first exam of SBL, which is your final exam. So do your practice of time management also. Okay, guys, the last point, why students fail, is actually the number of points. So for example, if you have to discuss the control weaknesses, let's say in the exam, and you have like, let's say 10 technical marks available, how many points do you think we should be writing for 10 marks? I'm not talking about professional skills marks here. These are pure technical marks. So how many points do you think? Okay, so Mohammedan thinks that we should be writing 5 points. Rabia thinks we should be writing 10 points. Okay, 5 points for 10 marks. More answers, please. We should be clear about these things, isn't it? 8. Okay, Javeria thinks we should write 8. Namra thinks we should write 10, 6, 5, 2 marks each, which means 5 points, right, Fiza? 5. Okay. All right. So I would say you should be writing 5 to 6 points minimum. Do you understand? Now, why 5 to 6? Because we are like kind of assuming that we are going to get 2 marks from each point, but sometimes we might not be able to get 2 marks from each point because our explanation for each point cannot be at the very same high level. Is that practical, what I'm saying? That sometimes we explain really well some of the points, but some of the points we might not be able to explain like really well to get 2 marks per point. So 5 to 6 minimum, but if you're able to write 1 extra or 2 extra points, you're welcome. But considering the time management situation, 5 to 6 might be the maximum you can write. But less than 5 is not okay. Are you listening to me? Less than 5 cannot get you the total marks. So that's something you need to keep in mind. And the explanation needs to be of good quality. It doesn't matter even if you write 1 line for 1 point. Adil, is that clear? So you need to write your point with the proper evidence from the case study or relevance to the case study. Then you get marks. You don't get marks when you write longer or shorter. This is not the criteria. The quality is the criteria. Are you able to demonstrate what is being said? Okay. Amin, you raised your hand. So if you have a question, you can already type in the chat window. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, the questions about the case study, you can hold them for a while because we still have to do the questions. We still have to do the case studies with the application of everything we have learned so far. Okay. All right, guys. Okay. Ikra has a very valid question that do I recommend doing the old paper P1 and P3 questions or past papers? Ikra, now is not the time to do that. So I won't suggest that. Do the SBL case studies as many as you can. Okay, Muhammad answers a very good question. That is each point going to be a separate paragraph? Yes, each new point will be a new paragraph. Whether you want to make the heading or not, it is your choice. Making headings is not compulsory. So it's all right not to make headings, but each new point should be a new line or a paragraph, a small paragraph, I would say, not a very big paragraph with 7, 8, 9, 10 lines. So try to make it to the point, but with quality evidence from the case study. Do you understand what I'm saying? So most of the times, yes, there are 2 marks available per point in SBL. IODG, that's for you. So 2 marks per point most of the times, but these are the maximum marks you can get from 1 point if your explanation is like real good quality. Okay, so Rabia, you can discuss it with any of the ACCA person individually about the feedback situation. They will guide you, or maybe they will connect you to a learning provider in your particular, country. Ikra's question was about, there were 2 papers before SBL P1 and P3, so she's asking if it's a good idea to solve those exam questions because they were kind of related to the syllabus of SBL. So I said no, now is not the time. Okay. How can we remember requirements while reading a case study? Okay, now that's a good question. So Furkan has a question, how can we remember the requirements while reading the case study? Is there any technique for that? Okay, there are 3 things you can do. Actually, there are 2 things you can do. One is if you have extraordinary memory, you can learn the requirements but that's not possible for most of the students. So what you can do is, can you make a quick mind map or a summary of the requirements on a rough sheet? If you are opting for a center-based exam, you will have a rough sheet. So you can write your requirements, basically the summary of the requirements or the mind map, maybe in a diagram form. So whatever suits you, choose one way and make the summary, put it in front of you, and then read your question or the exhibits. So all of you are going to give the computer-based exam, I'm sure, right? So most of the time, the formats you're using will be the Word format, spreadsheet, very rarely, but yes, slides for one requirement where the slides are tested. So I think computer-based exam is not going to be a problem, because in the center-based exam, ACCA says that they give the rough sheet also. And within your CBE platform, within that exam, you also have the option of Scratchpad. And the best part is that in a computer-based exam, you can copy and paste your requirements as well. So maybe you can use the Scratchpad, make the summary there. So plenty of options, but I think it's a good idea to make a summary of some sort, not a detailed one, so that you spend half the time there. A very quick mind map. All right. I think Furkan asked this question. So Furkan, is that okay? Okay, so Vishal has a very good question. You guys are already asking questions which I was expecting that we'll discuss through the case study. But just to, make you comfortable with the idea of these sessions, I'm taking most of them. So Vishal is asking how marks are allocated for control weaknesses plus recommendations. So if there are two parts of the requirement, how would I know how many marks go for which part? So roughly, you should be assuming half the marks. Is that okay, Vishal? How to make summary? Okay, I'll do that with you tomorrow. Okay, Saman? Okay, now a very interesting question from Iodaji. So the question is that, is it okay to copy answers directly from exhibits into our answer? Is there anything called plagiarism issue? Okay, so you can directly copy and paste from questions, but you cannot just leave it alone. You will have to add your own analysis to that copy pasted information. If you only copy paste and leave it as it is, you get no marks. Is that clear to everyone? I need answer from everyone for this. Olabisi, you can definitely chat. I can see your question. Can you type it here and let me know your question? Okay, great. Okay, guys, let's move on. Yeah, you cannot see each other's chat, which is all right, but I'm getting like 1,000 of questions, not exactly 1,000 of questions, but a lot of questions. So I'm trying to cover all of them. But now can we stop asking questions and move on? It's okay. I am actually reading the relevant questions also. So the questions which are not very relevant for everyone, I'm not reading them, because if I start reading everything, it might not be a very good idea in terms of time management. We just learned that time needs to be managed. So the session time needs to be managed too. Can someone see my question? Yes, Ali, I do. Can we use tables to answer questions? IODG will talk about it, where we can use tables and where we cannot. Okay. No, there are no notes for SBL exam. You can use any notes, any textbook, whichever is available to you, but just cover the syllabus 100% and have a look at syllabus guide to know. Okay. Oh, I'll be talking about that too, Furkan, about the models. That's a big misconception that we have to use the models. No, not at all. We can use models, we can skip models. The idea is to talk about the right and relevant points. With models or without models, doesn't matter. Okay, now let's discuss. Now I'm not taking any more questions for now. Let's have a look at what the examiner is expecting from you. And these are coming directly from examiners, different articles and different understanding, and maybe some of the examiner reports. So take these points very seriously. Okay, so examiner's expectation of you when you solve the exam, what is examiner looking for? So the first thing is examiner says that knowledge is irrelevant unless it is applied to the requirements, which means that stating straight technical knowledge by itself scores no marks in SBL unless you link it with the specific situation of the company that is given. So simple, straightforward knowledge or definitions or explanations will get you no marks. So I'm not saying they will get you less marks, they will actually get you no marks, the definitions and basic straight away the basic theory. All right. The second point, very, very important, is that you have to keep the requirements of the question in mind when reading the exhibits. And for that, we have already discussed that we should be making a quick summary or a mind map, maybe on a rough sheet if you're going for a center-based exam, maybe on a scratch pad. Remember the audience for which you are writing the answer for. Every question has the recipients. So for example, sometimes you are communicating with the seniors, sometimes you are communicating with the juniors, sometimes you are communicating with the press, sometimes you are communicating with the internal people. So the tone of the answer should, change accordingly, and do not forget about following the formats. I told you that if you do not follow the format, you lose 1 professional skill mark per format. So that is important. Write your answers clearly, and clearly means not sometimes not explaining too much. And try to write each new point in a new paragraph. So writing a lot of points in the same paragraph will not help you to get marks. Okay, so any paragraph that has more than, let's say, 3 to 4 good sentences is likely to be too long, even if it covers a point that has been developed enough to earn 2 marks. So you see that examiners very clearly says that 3 to 4 lines are like more than enough. You don't have to write extra, because when you write too much detail, the essence of the point, the clarity gets lost. Okay, the next point says say why as well as what. Now this is something you need to understand. So this means that if you're quoting details from the case study, like you're copy pasting, let's say, from the case study, you should always think, I need to show why this is important. This should mean you go on to explain the significance of the information you have included to the decision or a situation. So explain it. Another very important thing is that the financial management and performance management syllabus, especially to show additional calculations sometimes and to write extra points, this information is very useful. So do cover the areas which are assumed knowledge at SBL, the areas from financial management and performance measurement area of the syllabus. So sometimes the students are not able to keep up with the exam because of lack of knowledge from these areas. Then of course, ethics and professional skills module can help if you have done that, but even if not, then learn your professional skills really well. And the last thing the examiner says, do not fail the exam. Now what does that mean? It means that examiner really wants you to pass, and while marking, examiner gives you all the possible marks. So do not show lack of analysis. Explain your points, why you're making the point, right? Lack of commercial skills needs to be demonstrated. Sometimes the students fail to respond to the requirements in a professional and commercially sound manner, poor level of technical knowledge, wasting time making irrelevant points. one of the things which can actually get you into trouble is not, completing the syllabus 100%. Sometimes you fail to provide everything the requirement is asking for, so all the elements and different parts of the requirement, right? And some students honestly do not read the question requirements carefully enough and therefore fail to answer the questions that has been set. So all of these things are important, and I hope that we will be learning to take care of all these elements in next few days. At least we'll have the things, all the things, combined in front of us, which we have to take care of till our exam preparation. Okay. If you have time, Asma, you can still do EPSM before your exam. It can help you with professional skills and overall, basically your interpretation skills, but it totally depends if you have time for that. Okay, so Buhara, sorry if I'm wrong pronouncing your name. So Fahim has a question that should we be using you or name of the company? So you can do any way can work, but first person form is the way we normally use in SBL. Okay, now let's move on and let's talk about the syllabus of SBL. So I'll be talking about the current syllabus, and I will also be highlighting the syllabus changes which happened, which are applicable from September 2021. Okay, so now for syllabus, I am going to be moving to the other document. Now you also have the access to this document as well, but I'm displaying it on the screen as well. Can you see it? The recommended study sequence, if you still have to cover some of the areas. All right, guys, can you see it on the screen? Okay. All right, great. So you will agree with me. Let's go through the syllabus areas of SBL. Okay, so starting with, we have the professional skills marks, which is syllabus area I, if you look at the syllabus guide. So that I always like to cover first in the class, and you should also make a point to cover them first, because of course you need to know your professional skills to write your answers, and they appear with every requirement, with every syllabus area. So you need to have good understanding. So there are 5 skills. We'll be learning them in a little while, in a little bit detail. Then syllabus area A, leadership, needs to be covered, where you cover the leadership theories, different styles of leadership, for example, autocratic, democratic, roles and qualities of effective leader, leadership and culture. Now this can be important. It was tested in specimen 3 of SBL, the discussion on culture, how leadership impact the culture. There's this model, culture web. You can use this model as well, but as I said earlier, models are not compulsory. You can or cannot use models. That's up to you. And frankly, there are many requirements of the exam where there is no model to fit in. So naturally, then you are not using any model. Okay, then the concepts of transactional transformational leaders, entrepreneurs, and then the area of ethics, which will cover corporate code of ethics, professional code of ethics, and a couple of more aspects like fraud, bribery, corruption, etc. So are you guys all familiar with these areas already? Kind of. So I'm just making sure that I open up the syllabus for you so that you understand and realize if you haven't covered something so far. Okay. Next, syllabus area C, a very important area and pretty long one, and you do get many questions. If you look at your past exam, there are many questions on this particular area of strategy. So syllabus area C, introduction and levels of strategies, need to know For example, the corporate strategy, the competitive strategy or business strategy, and then operational strategy. So you need to have that basic idea. Then external environment analysis, it covers macro environmental factors, industry specific factors, national competitive advantage using Porter's diamond model, scenario planning. Then you should also know the ratios, some of the ratios, and how these are used in SBL, right? So all the ratios you have learned in other subjects, the same ratios, the same formulas, but how they are going to be used and tested in SBL, that's something you need to focus on and understand. Of course, through past paper practice, you will be able to better understand this. Internal environment analysis is the next area, which covers the analysis of resources and competencies, um, and connecting them with strengths and weaknesses. So you all must know that from external environment analysis, we get opportunities and threats. From internal, we get strengths and weaknesses. And together, this reaches SWOT analysis of the business. So if you have to, discuss the entire strategic position of the business in the exam, then you can actually use the SWOT analysis. Okay, tell me one thing. Okay, the circles are the main headings, guys, and the tick marks are the sub areas of that particular topic. Okay, Mubashir, is that okay? Okay, Glory, there's no WhatsApp group for SBL. Okay. Okay. Now, I have a question here. Can we use some of the ratios if the question is on SWOT analysis or to analyze the current position or strategic position of the business? Yes or no? So you can use some of the ratios, but not too many ratios, because we have to balance the answer. Use some of the ratios as strengths and weaknesses straight away, but also use the non-financial aspects of strengths and weaknesses. You don't use ratios for opportunities and threats because they are external, right? Absolutely. Profitability, liquidity, and risk-related ratios all can work, but not too many. And of course, we need to have the relevant data in the question to use them. No, actually, the ratios coming from FM and PM are too many. We don't need that much detailed ratio analysis in SBL. So maybe a couple of them would work. Rahul, is that okay? Okay, now the other areas which needs to be covered in the strategy area, value chain analysis, and the use of e-business in value chain. Sorry. Knowledge management, mission statement, critical success factors, KPIs, and benchmarks. So basic idea of all of this. Knowledge management specifically, it's important. If you haven't covered it, please do it. Strategic choices. So the areas so far, they were all related to strategic decision making, and these areas are called strategic position analysis, right? So once you know your current position or strategic position, you move on to making the decisions for future. And for strategic choices, you have areas like understanding how to get sustainable competitive advantage, then competitive strategy discussion, cost leadership differentiation. Do you know that? Then strategies for growth and development, maybe using ANSOF metrics, and methods of growth like acquisition, organic growth, strategic alliances. What is strategic alliance? Can you tell me that? Strategic alliance can be mergers. One example is merger, joint venture, partnership, licensing, franchising. So when you work with others, that's basically the idea. So you're right. Okay, then a little bit about corporate strategy. So where the performance of different strategic business units needs to be assessed and future strategy needs to be defined. So here we also teach the model BCG metrics, but again, you are not supposed to stick to the model if you don't remember it or if the relevant data is not there. So that, and then general idea of globalization and diversification, international diversification, diversifying the products, the markets, all of this, right? So I'm just going to go through this list very quickly again, just to make you realize if something is missed, covered it. Okay, then I normally move on to the area, syllabus area H, which is enabling success and change management, which also cover a lot of different topics. Yeah, venture capitalists can be considered as a strategic alliance option, where venture capitalists provide you the funds and, you know, so yes, kind of. But examiner is not going to ask you that what are the different types of strategic alliances. Examiner might give you one of the way a company is into strategic alliance, and examiner might ask you whether it's a good method of growth or not. So you might have to evaluate the positive and negative aspects of it. Okay. Now, moving on, this syllabus area, enabling success and change management. This has quite a lot of areas like organization structures and collaborative working, performance excellence, Balrich criteria. It gives us 7 different things to work on to get to the level of performance excellence, talent management and how to manage the talent within the organization, empowering organization where you give power to your employees to let them decide their targets and then making them responsible for it. Change management, how to effectively manage the change, what are the different things you need to consider when the change is coming in to the structures, to the information systems, etc. So this change management was tested in March 20 exam as well. That case study we'll be doing in the upcoming days. And then business process change, so how you can actually improve and keep on improving different business processes. Project management, very, very important. And one aspect of project management is very frequently tested in SBL as well. That is where the business case of a project is given and examiner asks you to critically evaluate it. So we'll be covering that in one of the past exams in next few days. Okay, knowledge management, Mohammed Allah, is a very quick concept of managing knowledge just like we manage information. So that needs to be learned properly, maybe through your, all right, how much of these areas will be covered? Okay, next 4 days, we have 4 more days to do our things. So it's a practice to pass session. So I will be doing the past exams practice. And through those practice questions, I will be revising those areas which were tested in those particular past exams. The rest of it you can learn through your notes, through your textbooks, or from your tuition provider, wherever you are based. But these are the areas that needs to be covered. All right. So we're not actually learning any specific topic, honestly, but yes, in the question and answer time, please note down whatever you want to ask me. I will be telling you quickly, not in a detailed form, but quickly. Okay. So maybe Muzammil, you can note down your question. Talha, you can also note down what you want to ask eventually, and we'll do that. Okay. So we'll keep maybe half an hour every day for question and answers at the end. All right. Finance and planning is another area of syllabus. And yes, this area has a lot of areas coming from financial management and performance measurement area, and they're all examinable in one way or the other. Not a lot of numerical or calculative testing will be done, maybe here and there, but not a lot. A lot of emphasis is on the analysis of the numbers. So the numbers might be given and you have to comment on what they mean. Okay, so you talk about use of technology within finance, sources of finance, for example, debt versus equity. You should know the pros and cons of both. Investment appraisal methods like NPV, right? Payback period, discounted payback period, time value of money concept. You might have to, talk about that a little bit. Relevant costing and short-term decision. So there was a very specific question on this limiting factor analysis and relevant costing in September 2019 past exam. So where some key calculations were to be done to justify your case because the financial aspect was needed. However, it was not just financial, but also the non-financial other aspects. But I'm just saying that if you cover this properly, because you have time, you will be more comfortable with the idea of the exam overall. Risk and uncertainty, basic idea of budgeting, maybe flexible budget and variance analysis, right? A little bit about linear regression and time series analysis needs to be known. And then the direction of the syllabus changes just like that to governance. And this area covers the entire idea of corporate governance and different guidelines. So the concept of agency, public sector governance, the board of directors and how they work, what are the different guidelines, governance scope and approaches, for example, rules-based and principle-based, right? Analysis of social responsibility, reporting to stakeholders. This also covers environmental issues, stakeholders management, and a couple of other things. So it's a very detailed area, governance, but all of these are relevant topics. So I've picked up this information from the study guide straight away. Okay, we'll take a break after this because let me end this. Okay, organizational control and audit. Okay, now please listen to me very carefully. This is a very important area, very frequently tested. So you may be getting a question on this in December as well. So here the examiner normally talk about control systems and reporting the control weaknesses, ask for different suggestions to improve the weaknesses, and a little bit about information system and internal audit. Then comes area D, risk management. Risk management is connected with internal control systems because, of course, a good internal control system will help in risk assessment ongoing basis, right? So risk assessment area, again, is very frequently. So these two areas are very frequently. And if they appear in the exam, they're very mark scoring. Again, if you are fully concentrating on the information and you are writing in the very good exam way, then you can get a lot of marks in these areas. And then last but not the least is technology aspects. The examiner of SBL really likes talking about technology anywhere and everywhere where the concept fit in. So you should also cover all the relevant areas of technology. Some of these areas are mentioned here. Now specifically, if I talk about the new, so if I specifically talk about the syllabus changes which happened in September 2021. So there were changes in the scope of many topics. There were some additions in terms of scope and deletions in terms of scope, right? But changing the scope does not change the entire idea of a topic, right? So what you have learned previously, pretty much it's the same. You can check the syllabus changes in September 2021 onwards syllabus guide. On the last page, the changes are, last 2 or 3 pages have the detail on the changes. And as I told you, the scope of some topics has changed. Some of the topics are excluded, like Tucker's model in ethics. It is excluded from the syllabus. So if anyone has learned SBL syllabus before September 21, you might have learned the decision making Tucker's model in ethics. It is not there anymore. And as I said, the scope of many other topics has changed. But those are not big changes. The two new additions to syllabus specifically are, one, the concept of artificial intelligence is added, and for this there is a technical article available. So just search, write in the Google SBL artificial intelligence technical article, and you will get this one. I can share the technical article myself also in the upcoming days, but this is the new addition to syllabus, not tested yet, can be important for the December exam. And then there is another topic added in the area, risks chapter of the syllabus. It's called risk assurance and assurance mapping. So do cover this concept as well. A very quick, simple, easy concept. However, because it's a new syllabus area, so you never know if it is tested in the upcoming exam. So that is what syllabus changes are, not a lot of changes. But yes, the two specific topics are artificial intelligence and robotics, and the other one is risk assurance. All right, guys, questions? Okay, risk assurance is not available through technical articles, but the new books and notes must have covered this. And for risk assurance, I'm referring to the 4 lines of defense, yes. So there are 4 lines of defense which are available, which makes sure that the risk is managed in a way it should be. So yes, that's what I'm referring to. I can share the notes on risk assurance if you guys want, because there is nothing specifically available in terms of technical articles. Okay, let me note it down that I have to share this. I will share the artificial intelligence uh, handout as well. Just noted it down. I will share them. Don't worry about it. And it's a very quick topic, especially the risk assurance. The other one, artificial intelligence, is not a very detailed topic as well, but the technical article is very nice and interesting, so you will learn it through that. Okay. And now let's take a quick 10 minutes break here. And after the break, we have 2 areas to cover, actually very serious areas to cover. We'll be talking about the professional skills marks, the 20% marks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the skills, the 5 skills one by one, and I will tell you and give you a checklist that how to demonstrate each skill in the exam. And then right after that, we'll do 2 short questions today to learn the application and demonstration of professional skills. So the last 1.5 hours for the session today is going to be absolutely based on professional skills through practice and through learning the checklist. Is that okay? Any questions? Niranjan, FM and PM, some of the techniques are added in the SBL because when you are defining the strategy, you need to know the financial aspect of the strategy. So that's how FM and PM areas are connected, because they are coming from the financial side of the strategy. Yes, I think technical articles, revision kit and past paper, everything helps, but especially past papers, Asma. Yeah, I think practicing some questions according to topic wise is fine, but at the end you will have to do all past papers together, like the entire syllabus covered, and then you do 100 marks case study all together, so not topic wise. So for past papers, I would say do that. So cover the syllabus first, the entire thing, take a week or so, and then stick to the past papers one by one, because your exam is not going to be topic wise, it's going to be the entire thing with one case study. All right. If you have time, Munib, you can go for ethics and professional skills module already, because that definitely gets connected to SBL. But if somebody says that without EPSM we cannot pass SBL, that's not true. You can still pass SBL, prepare for SBL, but it definitely gets refined in terms of professional skills if you do your EPSM. If you have time, you can go for it already. Now I'm going to take a break for 10 minutes here, and I will see you in 10 minutes, and we'll discuss a few things about professional skills. And yeah, yes, Fiza, you're right. You can do 100 marks in the last week. So maybe last 10 days, can you do that? Not just 1 week, last 10 days. So 10 past papers, 10 days, one past paper per day. Is that good? I will also share a study plan at the end. If you guys want to stick to that, Fiza, that can be the study plan you could also follow. All right, guys, I need break too. You guys need break too. Let's meet in 10 minutes. All right, thank you very much. All right, can we start? Oh. All right, everyone, let's start the discussion on professional skill marks, which are the 20% marks of your exam. Are you all with me? Okay. So, professional skills marks. So the exam of SBL is a total 100 marks. Yes. 80 marks are named as technical marks, and the 20 marks are the professional skills marks. So these 80 marks are earned when you write your points of on different syllabus aspects, of course through the requirements. So you write your points according to the requirements and you get technical marks. How do you get professional skills marks? Okay, I have a question here and I would like everyone to answer this. That do you get professional skills marks by writing extra points? Okay. More answers, please. Let the answers coming in. Okay. Okay, let me be very specific. So anyone who thinks that I will write extra points and I will get professional skills marks. I think most of you are saying that no, you cannot get professional skills marks by writing your points or adding to the points, basically adding the number of points. So that's not possible. You're right, Rabia. You get the marks, and I really like the explanation from Fiza. She says that you get professional skills mark by adding the 5 skills to your answers. And how do we add that? Again, the question is, should we write an extra line or something? So basically, to get the professional skills marks, and listen to this very carefully, to get the professional skills marks, you will have to write the points which you're writing to get the technical marks in a way that they incorporate or they demonstrate the relevant professional skill. I'm repeating. So you write your points in a way, the way of writing your regular points for technical marks should be that they show off the relevant professional skill. And that can come from following the format, appropriate tone, explaining your points really well, using evidence from the case, and a couple of other things. Is that clear? So how to get professional skills marks? The one-line answer is that you demonstrate the relevant skill in your point, you show off the professional skill while writing the regular points, and you get your skill marks. So the next question arises. Okay, can you all confirm if that kind of makes sense? Yeah. So the next question arises that how is it going to happen? How can I add or show off my skill while writing my normal point? So the first thing is that you need to be conscious about what skill is tested. So when you're making the summary of your requirements, do write which skill is tested for each requirement, so that when you're writing that the answer for a particular requirement, you are already conscious of the professional skill tested. and how to demonstrate the professional skill. That's the next discussion heading. So you guys told me that there are 5 skills. Yes, I'm going to be discussing all the skills one by one. The first one you see on the screen says communication. Is that so? So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to be sharing a checklist for each of the professional skill to help you show it off in your answer and to help you demonstrate that particular skill in your answer. So the question is what to do to show off the skill in my answer, because I am not supposed to write extra points, but I'll have to write my relevant points in a way that they show off the skill. So how to show off? The checklist will help you. So for initial level questions, this checklist needs to be kept in mind, but eventually you should be so, what should I say, you should be so used to uh, using your professional skills and demonstrating them that you don't even have to think about your checklist. But for start, it's a good idea. Okay, so communication skill, according to examiner, it means that students have to express themselves clearly and convincingly through the appropriate medium while being sensitive to the needs of the audience. So if I highlight the keywords, it is clearly and convincingly through appropriate medium. What do you think medium is? Yeah, so appropriate medium in your exam is going to be the format, the relevant format for that particular requirement. Absolutely. And it also says that you need to be sensitive to the needs of the audience. So again, it's the same thing which I discussed, that sometimes you're talking to your seniors or the people parallel to you. Sometimes you are highlighting the mistakes or you're commenting on the work of some junior. So this is the style the SBL questions are asked. So your tone needs to be different. So when you're talking to a junior, you need to be very, straight. You need to be highlighting the problems with the work. At the same time, you need to be polite and you need to offer the help. So a good example of evaluating the juniors work is September 2018 exam attempt, where there is one particular question where you have to evaluate the work of a junior team member. So we are going to attempt this case study tomorrow, so automatically we'll be covering a lot through those 4 case studies for next 4 days. Okay, now in order to be clear and convincing and using the medium and intended need of audience, whatever it is, the checklist says that try to write your explanation or your point. So be very to the point. So not extraordinary detail. Can you guys try that? So when you are doing your practice questions or attempting mock, try to write to the point, not extraordinary details where the quality is not added. So only add the quality lines, or the explanation should be adding quality to your point and not just extraordinary details. Take care of the audience. So again, are you talking to a junior or are you communicating it to your seniors or the people parallel to you? Clarify your answer by writing short sentences sometimes. So when you write long sentences, sometimes you're not able to write the answer which makes sense to the examiner. Are you all listening to me? So especially if English is not your first language, then this can be a problem to write statements which are clear to the examiner. So try to write short sentences and they will be more meaningful and more clear. Then must follow the format, because if you don't, you will lose 1 professional skill mark. If it's communication, -1 communication. Then and a very, very important point is explain your point with reasons, give reasons. So for example, if you're highlighting, let's say, a weakness in the system, always explain it that it's a weakness because, write your reason. And the reason should come from the information from the exhibit, or the reason should come from the assumption you are taking based on the information from the exhibit. So straight from the question and maybe assumption based, but give your reasons that why do you think one particular thing is positive or negative or whatever the requirement is about. And last but not the least, you may use headings if you want to be more clear and you want to be clear in your communication, especially if, let's say, you're using the model. And even if not, let's say the question says discuss the financial and non-financial aspects. So maybe you put a heading of financial aspects, then write whatever number of paragraphs you need to add about financial aspects, then make a heading non-financial aspects, and then write your points. So you can do that, but that's not something compulsory. Okay, so that's your communication skill for you. So you can do all of this, or some of these elements can be used to demonstrate the communication skill in the exam. And at the end of the day, I think the most important one is going to be explaining your point with reasons, giving justifications, and with good justifications and reasons, you're very convincing and you can get most of the professional skills marks, and of course as well as technical marks. So you're getting both type of marks simultaneously, the technical as well as the professional skill. Any questions on this? Quickly. And yes, as Kagan says, we should be referring to the, I got it. So the question is that should we refer to the exhibits while answering the question? So the answer is no. You don't have to write in exhibit 1 or in exhibit 2 it was mentioned. No, just straight away use the information without taking care of which exhibit it is coming from, because that's not very professional. That would sound very question like, which we don't want. Okay. No, when I say assumption, that means that when you have to explain a point, sometimes the evidence directly comes from the question. Do you understand, Rabia? That, for example, if I say that if there's a problem in reporting, let's say, the stakeholders are unhappy because the reporting is not fine. So if this is written in the exhibit, that is straight picking the evidence from the question. But let's say if it's not written in the question that the stakeholders might not be happy, I can still assume that if the reporting system is not okay, the stakeholders will not be happy, their claims will not be satisfied. So that's what assumption based on the relevant discussion. Okay. Because not the explanation of all the points is not going to come from the case study directly. Sometimes you have to make up your own points and give ideas. So giving your own ideas and assumptions is the same thing. Okay. Yeah, you can say that. What is the best way to communicate with a senior? Akis, we'll do some practice of it through questions. So most of the time, the questions you get, you have to communicate with the strategic level people. There are very few questions where you have to communicate with your junior team members, and we'll do some practice of it so you will know. Okay. Okay, the next skill is commercial acumen. Commercial acumen. Please have a look at this definition or a summary. So commercial acumen skill is that students have to show awareness of the wider business and external factors affecting the business, of course, according to the requirement. So first we'll see what the requirement is, and then we'll show the awareness of wider business and external factors according to the requirement, and using commercially sound judgment and insight to resolve issues and exploit opportunities. And all of it is definitely linked to a requirement. So we'll have to, wait for that particular one. Okay, now how to demonstrate commercial acumen in our exam questions. So the first thing, and I think this is one of the most important things you can do for commercial acumen skill demonstration, it is to give suggestions. If suggestions are asked, then you give suggestions which resolve the issues of the organization in actual sense. So for example, if I tell you that there is a charity hospital and they have for example, lorry which they use to carry the goods, and that is an old lorry that breaks down a lot of times, etc. So what's the best way? What should the charity do to resolve this issue? Can you tell me something? I mean, if the question is to give suggestions on how, the issue of this lorry can be resolved and the commercial acumen skill is tested, so how can we get the marks? So the first point says give suggestions which resolves the problem of the company in that particular situation of the company. So can I say buy a new lorry? I mean, they need a lorry, they need a vehicle. Can I say just go and buy a new one? What's the problem? What do you say? What do you think? Would it get me commercial acumen marks? Buying a new lorry straight away for a charity organization might not be a good way. Excellent. Why? Because charity is always struggling with funds. So they can't just go and buy a new lorry. So maybe the good idea is to have a fundraiser to replace the lorry. Rabia, excellent. And outsource. Uh, so don't have a new vehicle, but outsource the process to somebody relevant. So the lorry is old and cost a lot of money in maintenance, etc. So the best way is to not keep on maintaining it and waste money, maybe going for leasing, hire purchasing, but ask, straight away saying go and buy a new lorry, that's not commercial acumen demonstration. So according to the situation of the company, give suggestion. Ask for sponsorship, ask for donations, or ask a member to donate. So all of these are right answers, but what is not right, I told you that, right? So when you are asked a question and you have to demonstrate commercial acumen, you have to give suggestions which are logical, right? And according to the problem of the company in hand. All right, what else? Also, you can extract informations from the scenario to explain answer. It is using the information of the case study to explain your points that can help with demonstrating commercial acumen, and not just sticking to just the financial aspect of things. Also look at the non-financial aspects if this type of question is there, and looking at the broader external factors like social, environmental, that can add commercial acumen. So a lot of things can be done, honestly. Then one common point is that explaining your points with reason. So you saw this point in communication as well as here. So that is common with all skills, commercial acumen, communication, and others. And following the format, because if you don't, you will lose the professional skills marks. So that's commercial acumen for you. Asad, it basically means that um, discussing anything according to what the situation of the company is and not generally. Okay. Okay. The next skill is skepticism, and it's a very interesting skill because most of the students know this skill because they have learned skepticism in audit and assurance. But the concept of skepticism is broader here. It is not just the auditor's skepticism, it is any professional's skepticism, and for any particular requirement you may be asked in the exam. Okay, so what is skepticism? It means that you have to probe, question, and challenge information and views presented to you to fully understand business issues, and to establish facts objectively based on ethical and professional values. So of course, you'll have to take care of ethics and professionalism while demonstrating skepticism. But what exactly I need to do? I need to have a questioning mind. So I shouldn't be basically, satisfied with very little information, and I shouldn't be agreeing to everything that is given in the question or is asked for. Then considering both positive and negative aspects. So if you consider both aspects, it automatically includes, skepticism, that I'm not sticking to positives, but I'm also highlighting the negatives of a particular situation. Also, the next one is very, very important, that do not believe everything that is said by a director or mentioned in exhibits. So if you have to challenge that information given in the exhibits, or if you have to challenge what the director is saying, then you naturally demonstrate skepticism. So for example, listen to me carefully now. So for example, as a director, and let's say if your question is about corporate governance. So most of you must be familiar with this syllabus area. So if there is a corporate governance weakness, let's say there are not enough non-executive directors on the board of a company. Let's say if it's written in the case study that there are not enough non-executive directors in the board, and if as a director I'm saying that it's okay not to have enough non-executive directors because we don't need them, and the question is discuss the corporate governance weakness. So would you go against my behavior as a director and say that I am not telling the right thing because corporate governance wants majority NEDs? Yeah. So if something is against corporate governance, even a director is justifying it, you don't have to believe it. You still have to say that the director is not telling the right thing, and automatically you are demonstrating skepticism. Yeah. So this is how you demonstrate skepticism. Sometimes we even don't realize, and we are demonstrating our skills in the exam. So we don't have to keep the professional skills a separate element of discussion. They should be built in within our normal answers. Okay. Next is sometimes to use question-like or suggestive statements while writing the answer. So you can become a little suggestive. So concluding your answer, maybe give a suggestion that how you can improve on the particular situation you have in the question. All right. So that's skepticism. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat window now. Okay. The next skill is analysis. Now that's a very higher level skill, but I think it's very, actually all skills are going to be tested, but sometimes analysis is tested for greater marks than the other skills, but that's not always the case. Okay, so analysis skill means that you have to thoroughly investigate and research information from a variety of sources. So in the exam, what does this mean? Investigating information from a variety of sources. What do you think? That in the exam, we are not going to be actually researching or using different mediums. In the exam, we only have limited sources of information. And what are those? Yeah, so those sources are actually the information in the exhibits. So here variety of sources means variety of exhibits can be used to answer one particular question. So wherever the professional skill analysis is tested, it might be that you have to use more than one exhibit, but not always, right? Yeah. So whatever exhibits we have, if they are relevant, so we can use like 2 exhibits, 3 exhibits, depending on the requirement and the information in the exhibits. But that's not compulsory. I'm just saying this is one of the things. Okay, and then logically process it with a view of considering it for recommending. So basically, analysis should be done in a way that the person who is reading your analysis should be able to give some kind of recommendation after reading your analysis. The things should be so clear in the person's mind that they are ready for the recommendation. Okay, so what is the checklist? So for analysis, you can use different models and theories which are within your syllabus, but this is something which is subjective. You may or may not want to use the models, right? Which is okay. But this is one way to, incorporate analysis, because when you use models, sometimes you're better analyzing the situation. But it's okay not to use models as well. You can make some additional calculations if required and if the data is there. So for example, if you are going for an investment decision, maybe you want to know what the NPV is, maybe you want to know what the payback period is, or maybe if the payback period is given, the discounted payback, and the figures are there, you can quickly calculate NPV as well. If the cash flows are there, maybe you use some ratios if they are relevant, and if again the data is there. Now, you demonstrate best analysis when you use financial as well as non-financial factors or aspects of a particular given situation. So using financial, non-financial is the key. Then you can give recommendations if required in the question, using multiple exhibits and explaining your answer with reasons. This is the same thing we are discussing every time. Explain your points with reason. And yes, one more thing, which is you can guess. How can I make sure to get full marks on analysis? Follow the required format. That can help too. So for analysis, you can do a load of things actually. No, communication and analysis are not same. They are different. But do you guys know that all the skills are kind of linked? So sometimes some elements of analysis can be included in communication and vice versa, and for other skills too. So you can kind of mix and match the elements of the checklist and demonstrate whatever you remember in the exam. That's the actual way you're going to do that. It depends on the case study information and it depends on the requirements a lot. What are you exactly going to do to demonstrate your skill? But I think the main one thing you should be doing for all skills is explaining your answers with proper evidence, with proper reasoning and convincing argument. The last one is evaluation. So evaluation skill is the highest level of skill out of the 5, but examiner do not make any, exceptions. They treat all skills equally. Okay, now evaluation means that you have to carefully assess situation, proposals, and arguments. So of course, if there's an evaluation skill, there might be some proposals or situations or arguments given. So you have to do them in a balanced way. What is the balanced way? It is to consider positives, negatives, financial, non-financial aspects. So most of the times, the balance in the answer comes by following these 4 ideas: positive aspects, negative aspects, financial as well as non-financial, if of course the concept is relevant. So carefully assess the ideas, proposals, etc., using professional ethical judgment to predict future outcomes and consequences as a basis of sound decision making. Now, what exactly needs to be done to demonstrate evaluation? So all the points you have just learned in analysis skills, remember, all these 6-7 points here goes naturally to evaluation as well. And on top of it, on addition to this, you consider broader external factors like social, environmental, and ethical. So just learn these 3 and keep them always remembered, that I have to talk about social, environmental, and ethical issues if I can find some information and if I can make some connection for this particular evaluation skill. And then you consider cost benefit analysis of that particular project or proposal for which the requirement is relevant, and some risk associated with it. All right, so that kind of concludes our discussion on professional skills. Any questions? You're welcome to ask. Yes, Manish, please type in the chat window for your question. Okay. However, this would have resulted in financial person. Okay, so Kagan, can we write this point like this, that company should consider establishing a risk committee, but also needs to look at the cost aspect of establishing the committee. So just give your opinion very clearly. So write, give a suggestion and just mention a little bit about cost. That will demonstrate more professionalism, honestly, and more marks. Is that okay? That's a tricky question. So Vishal is asking, can we include examples from real world such as Enron, etc.? So no, Vishal, I haven't seen examiner doing that. So you shouldn't be giving real life examples with name. Maybe keep the scenario in mind and give some points accordingly, but not the names. All right then. Now I have two questions to discuss, and the aim of those two questions is to learn how to demonstrate our professional skills. So these are the two questions I will be discussing for now. These are short questions and you can find the handouts in the handout section. So both questions are separately given with the names. And the aim of these questions, as I said earlier, is to learn the demonstration of professional skills. And of course, they are not SBL level case studies or long questions, short examples or questions and learning the demonstration. So one question is going to help us understand analysis more and the other one skepticism more. So let's start with the first one. Please open the question because I won't be able to display it here, and I will give you some reading time and then we'll sort of discuss it. Are you all ready? So the first question, Frigate Limited. Please confirm if you're ready with the question in front of you. All right, great. So I'm also going to show this question. So very quick scenarios, not very difficult, but we'll learn a little bit about how to, demonstrate these skills. So I'm going to be discussing the requirement, which is given at the end. So the first question requirement says that the culture web allows the business analyst to explore the way things are done around here. So maybe with this, you get the idea that this question is coming from the leadership area of the syllabus, where the culture, how the culture of the company is, that discussion is done. So what are we supposed to do? Analyze the Frigate Limited. This is the name of the company. So analyze Frigate Limited using culture web or any other appropriate framework, which can also mean no framework or no model in SBL. It's okay not to use models as long as you're able to discuss the different elements and points. But I might be using culture web model just for quick revision, maybe. So analyze company Frigate Limited using this model or maybe without model for understanding organizational culture. So the key element which you will be identifying while reading the question is to highlight as much positive or negative aspects of culture. 15 technical marks are available, and how many points we should be writing to get these 15 marks? Quick answers. Now these are technical marks. So how many points? Come on guys, quickly. So you should be writing 7 to 8, right? Or 8 to 9, depending on how much information I can get. And also please remember that you can take this question as one exhibit of the exam. So this information is good like one exhibit of the exam. So yeah, 7 to 8 I would say. But the professional skill marks here, we are going to be practicing or demonstrating analysis skill. Is that okay? So keeping analysis professional skill, and that we have to get 7 or 8 evidences or information pieces to, you know, kind of explain the entire culture of the company. Read the question, and I'm giving you 5 to 7 minutes to read this question, and then straight away we'll start discussing it with the main emphasis of analysis professional skill. Can you guys do that? Please open your own copy of question, read it in 5 minutes, and then I will start. Okay, everyone, please start. No. In the exam, you don't have to identify the professional skill. The examiner will tell you which skill. And here, I am assuming that my professional skill, the examiner gave his analysis. So in the exam, it will be clearly written. This is not a past exam question, as I said. So I'm just telling you myself that this is the skill tested. Okay. Now please start reading the question. All right. How many of you are still reading? Just tell me if you need a few more minutes. Okay, so 2 to 3 more minutes and then we'll start. All right, let's start the discussion. So we are supposed to analyze the company for understanding the culture, and while we are evaluating or analyzing the culture, we are going to highlight our professional skill of analysis as much as we can. So what can we do to demonstrate analysis? Anything you remember from the checklist? Quick answers are welcome. I think you guys are already getting tired, but right now is not the time to give up. We still have to, cover these questions. Okay. So we can use the model, of course, Pizza, yes, but as I said that using the model is not something, a huge aspect of SBL, so please don't consider it compulsory. Then we can consider positive, negative aspects, very, very nice. Financial, non-financial, but do you think a case financial and non-financial is applicable on this question? I mean, this question is not to analyze a project or some investment or some other aspect of things, right? So there's no financial direct discussion. But yes, I agree with positive negatives. But I think that Mr. Ron is a very, what should I say, a very autocratic sort of a person who is like very bossy. But let's see. We can use multiple exhibits, but again, not in this question, but yes, of course. And we can kind of give recommendations. Very, very nice. Yes, can we give a little, can we become a little suggestive at the end while concluding the analysis? What do you guys say? Okay, so Asad is asking positive or negative is more relevant to evaluation, but it's actually relevant to all professional skills. So whatever you have learned so far, it kind of comes together, and you can demonstrate it for one particular skill as well. And a big part of what to do to demonstrate my skill is linked to your requirement, honestly. So let's see how we can score most technical as well as professional skills marks for this particular question. But I would need your input here because I cannot, write my analysis here without your help. Okay. Okay, just a second. So just a second, guys. I have to. Okay, now we can start. So we have to analyze the culture of Frigate Limited, right? And I hope you remember that in the computer-based exam, you will be typing your answers. I'm not typing them because I'm more comfortable with, demonstrating the answers like this. But I assume that everyone can manage the typing of the answers in the Word format for SBL. Okay, so what about Frigate Limited's culture? So I'm going to be using culture web model here, but you don't have to. And let's learn this aspect of SBL as well. That can I write my answer without a model? So the answer is yes, and let's see how. So if I apply the culture web model, it has some specific headings like rituals and routines. So even if we are not using the model, are you not going to talk about the routines? What do you say? Just say yes or no. Even if I'm not using the model, which I should not if I'm not comfortable, am I going to be talking about routines without model B? Of course we will, right? So what, any routines from the question? Or rituals or anything which is regular? I mean, everything which is given in the question is kind of regular, but very specifically, Ron is always at work at 8 in the morning and then 5:30 in the evening. And why does he do that? To make sure employees are on time and not leave early. What does this tell us about the culture? Rigid, inflexible culture where timings are super important, kind of. So if you're writing your point like that, now listen carefully. If you're writing your point like that, you are naturally demonstrating analysis. So first you identified a point that Ron is always at work at 8, 5:30. And then you're giving the reason to make sure employees are on time. And then you are talking about what the culture looks like because of this particular point. That's enough analysis done already. So I think in most of the questions, the professional skill comes naturally in if you are explaining your point well, if you are using evidence from the case, if you are writing your proper reason to justify your point. So if you do that all right, the professional skill marks are automatically coming in. Is that clear to everyone? Yeah, so theory X, but you don't actually have to mention the theory if you are not familiar. I'm just saying for another situation maybe. Is that clear? I mean, my focus is not the actual question. It is, in fact, the focus, but the professional skill, the analysis. Is that clear? I want answer from everyone. Very slow response, guys. So what I'm trying to say here is that if I write my answer properly, I start nicely, I give evidence from the case like this, 8 to and 5:30, and then I give reasons why does he do that, and then I give a little hint of how the culture is turning in that's enough analysis already done. Now I cannot calculate a ratio here because that's not relevant, and I don't even have the data, isn't it? Okay, what else about the culture of this particular organization? He has an autocratic style. He's the most important person. Okay, if we stick to the model, I'm sorry, I am kind of using the model as well, just to, give you an idea of with model, without model. Okay, now listen, everyone. If you don't have this model's heading, everyone, if we don't have this heading, rituals and routines, does this point still make sense without model? Is this something you still talk about without model? Yes. So the question is, with model, without model, it doesn't matter. This is where you get the marks from, both technical and professional, not the headings, not the concepts of the models. But yes, if you remember a particular model for a situation, go ahead with it. Let's say my model has 8 headings and I remember only 4. Use half the model. So no model, using some parts of the model, mixing some parts of the model with other points which are relevant to the requirement, everything works. Please believe me. And I'm saying this with a huge sense of responsibility here, that everything works as long as it's relevant and it is according to the requirement. Okay, let's move on because we have a little time constraint here. Yeah, excellent. So Amin is suggesting that we can also copy paste some information from the question to the answer. Absolutely. But don't leave the copy pasting alone. Add your own analysis. Maybe write that the culture seems to be very inflexible and rigid, etc. So adding something to the copy pasted point will get you like good marks. But if you copy paste only and not add your own line and your own analysis, then you get 0. Please be careful. Okay, then if you talk about the symbols, are there any verbal symbols which tells us the authority of some person or a group maybe? And are there any visual symbols? So yes, we do have like verbal symbols. Can you quickly guess the language? Yes, the commander. So he wants everyone to call him the commander. So in the exam, you're not supposed to be using these arrows and bullet style writing. You will have to write in paragraph form. I'm just saving my time here writing in bullets. Okay, so the commander is his obsession with authority, and visual symbol that he has an expensive motor cruiser, the boat he has. So these are kind of symbolizing that this is the person of authority and he has in a total position to influence the culture. So this is one point you can add to the total 7 or 8 points we have to write. Then what about the control systems? How is he controlling environment? How is he controlling employees? By punishment or by reward? Culture of? I think absolutely punishment. Can you tell me some of the punishments also? So what are the punishments the employees get? So naturally, guys, are you listening to me? By dissecting the information into different elements and highlighting the key elements from the question, I'm demonstrating analysis. Do you think I'm analyzing the situation well so far with your help? What do you guys have to say? If yes, am I giving examples? Am I showing evidence from the case? Am I making my point clear with examples, with reasons? If yes, then I'm showing analysis skill and I will get technical marks as well as analysis marks. So double. So there are 2 parts of the marks I'm getting. which is great. Okay, so some of the punishment is wage deduction if they are late. And what else? That's it? Don't they have very minimum leave quota? And then you can make your answer a little dramatic also. Listen, guys, these things work. Make your answer a little dramatic by saying that, you know, they have very minimum leave quota, and then mention and name all the occasions for that they have to use these leaves for funerals and emergencies and doctor's appointments and everything. So how bad is that? How rigid is that? And they also are turned down request for unpaid leaves. So don't leave anything. If you have read the question with full concentration, then you should be able to pick up all the things, all the stories, maybe copy paste and add your own analysis at the end. So no flexibility. Not a very nice culture to work with, to work in. Maybe, but you know. And why is this so that this one person is kind of controlling everything? Who has the most power? Who's the power culture or power structure? Ron has the most power, and why so? Because he owns majority shares. So can we also add this in our analysis? Again, with model, without model. This is something we should be highlighting, that yes, this person is influencing because he owns majority shares. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next we have is the what about the structure of the organization? Formal, informal, what? So I know for sure it's a flat structure, not a lot of hierarchies, but is it formal or is it informal? It's informal, highly informal. Okay, Fiza, you say that it's informal. No, strictness doesn't mean formal. It's informal, no specific rules, regulations. Everything employees apply to employees and none applies to Ron. That's not formal. It's highly informal, but if you want to get professional skill marks of analysis, examiner needs evidence. So why are you saying that? Why it's informal? Yeah, so maybe one of the things which okay, I'll come to your point later, Luke. First things first, that employees have no specific job description. Is that right? Excuse my handwriting, I'm just trying to write like very fast. So that's why employees don't have specific job descriptions, and then they are made to work anywhere. Where exactly? To file tax returns of Ron, to book his holiday tickets, something like that, etc. Right? So write all the etceteras from the question here. I mean, when you're writing an answer. So when you give all this detail, analysis skill is coming in. So technical plus analysis, double marks. And the second thing, which I think Luke has highlighted and maybe some other students as well, it's the story of Anne. Do you understand what I'm saying? Story of Anne the accountant. So she was hired to fix the things, but eventually she wasn't treated well. His organizational chart was teared off and she was asked to leave the company. That entire story in 2-3 lines or 4 lines you'll have to write, and that becomes a separate point. Now please note everyone that that employees not having job description and made to work anywhere is a separate point worth of 1.5 to 2 marks. And the story of Anne is a separate point. So don't write these two things in one paragraph. Make 2 separate paragraphs, 1 and 2 for these 2 things. Now they are going under one particular heading if you're using the model, but otherwise they are 2 separate aspects of the culture. Is that clear so far? I hope so. No job security, absolutely. I mean, that is also the part of the entire informal, formal, you know. situation. All right. Can you please confirm if you have any question till here or anything which is bothering you? So you know, I just want to show you that sometimes you don't even have to be very careful about this professional skill. It naturally comes in if you are thinking about your reasons of the points and story and evidence of the points well. I think that's the main idea of demonstrating your skill. Okay, next. What else do we have? So then I think you must have highlighted that Ron is very critical of a lot of stakeholders. He doesn't like anyone. He has opinions about customers and about suppliers and about tax authorities, and he has opinion about society in general. So that also tells about the culture that he doesn't want stakeholders to come in, and he doesn't want to satisfy their claims, poor relations with all these stakeholders. Yeah. So that's also 100% relevant. So I think we have already discussed about 6 to 7 to 8 points maybe. Uh, Taking care of the number of points is also very important, because we can't just write 2 points and get a lot of marks. 2 points can get you 4 marks at the maximum, and that too if the explanation is like really awesome. So general approach is the good approach, Zamir. So Zamir is asking if I don't apply the model and go for the general approach. Now, general approach should not miss on the important elements and evidences from the exhibits. Okay? So don't use models, keep it general, but use all the stories and evidences from the case study. That's not okay if you're missing on that. Okay? Under the structure, yes. That it shows the informal structure, right? But the stories are so different, right? The employees not having a job description and the entire situation which happened with Anne. So these are two different aspects. I can get like 3 to 4 marks if I write both the points correctly. Okay. And the last thing is paradigm. And again, I am sticking with the terminology of the model. Otherwise, paradigm simply means the summary of all the points you have written. And you can be suggestive here as well, as we discussed earlier as well. So what's the summary of the entire case study about the culture? That the overall the culture is, oh, Rabia has a very good point that Ron is spent large part of the day on his boat. So that can go under the heading rituals and routines. And if you're not using the model, then yes, this is a very relevant added point. So paradigm means to reinforce all the elements of culture web and basically writing a conclusion and summary. So all in all, or if I conclude the culture of the organization, it's very inflexible and very strict, where all the rules apply to employees and none of the rules apply to Ron. Now, if this culture goes ahead with a lot of inflexibility and punishments, the employees definitely must be and will be demotivated, and they will not stay with the company. As soon as they get a good job offer, they will move, and that means that it's not good and healthy for the company. So a good summary, a nice summary needs to be written for paradigm. You can call it as conclusion, you can call it summary, you can be suggestive that what approach Ron should be taking up, but don't write too many suggestions, just 1 line or 2. So that's my discussion on this particular question. I have done it just to show that how sometimes only explaining your points with information from the case can get you the professional skills marks. Absolutely. Okay, now please tell me if there is any question. Yeah. Any questions? No? All right, guys. Would it be okay to suggest that Ron should be absolutely? And Akis, you can also write that otherwise the employees will all leave. At least 6, Vishal, as we discussed, that for 12 marks, you should be writing at least 6 to 7 points. Yeah. Okay, guys, we have one more question to do. Are you all ready for that? Because I don't want to leave anything alone, because that question is important in a way that it will help you to understand skepticism better. And normally skepticism skill is given with the question like these. So are you all up for it? Absolutely, Rabi, a very good explanation. Very nice. No, no, no. Vishal, basically here the question is not clearly asking for recommendation. Am I right? So when the question is not clearly asking you for recommendations, then you don't have to make recommendation a separate point. So here you have to discuss I think you're talking about this particular question, culture. So we were analyzing the culture, so we will be identifying different stories from the case study, all 6 of them. Recommendation is kind of uh, in the conclusion part. Oh, the standard answers? Yes, I can do that, Zamir, but maybe later. For right now, let's do the next question, which is IIA, and a very different question, honestly, from as compared to what we have just done. So this question is coming from project management, and it's showing a business case of a project. So are you familiar with the concept of business case and the different tools, for example, NPV used within the business case? Now, this question is important not just for professional skills mark, but also as a concept, because similar kind of questions are tested at least 3 times in the past exams. But this doesn't give any guarantees to what you're going to get in December 21. But, it's an important aspect of project management, I would say. Shall we start? So for this question, I'm not going to give you any time to read. I'm going to read it with you and we'll explain each and every individual point. Are you all ready? Yeah, I can share the answers, but tomorrow for both the questions, okay? But please remember that these are short questions, not the exam level questions. So not overemphasis can be, not really great. But yes, if you want to read the start and answer one time, it's okay. Let me write answers. Okay, let's start. So I'm going to start with the requirement, which is given at the end. So it says that, just a second. So you see that there's a new verb here as well. Okay, Amin, do you have a question? Can we keep it for the end of the session, maybe? Let's keep it for the end. Okay, now the question requirement says critically evaluate. So the interesting thing is that we are also learning different verbs of SBL. So critically evaluate means look at the positive aspects as well as negative aspects very keenly. So critically evaluate the financial case or business case or cost benefits of a computer-based assessment project. We have 15 marks. Coincidence that same marks are here for this question. So again, we have to write 7 to 8 points minimum for these technical marks. And I am going to be using professional skill of skepticism. So let's assume that examiner has given skepticism skill here to be demonstrated. So most of the time when the examiner asks you to critically evaluate some given work or some given performer, just like this business case, examiner always asks skepticism as the skill. And most of the time, now listen carefully, that you are critically evaluating the work of a junior person. So maybe you are communicating with the junior team member, and you're demonstrating skepticism through it and highlighting what the positive aspects and negative aspects of work is. Okay, I'm going to read the question with you, and I will take the questions at the very end. So please don't type any questions in the chat window, only if you have any answers to give if I ask a particular question. Okay. No, the professional skill here is skepticism, Rabia. Is that clear? It's not evaluation, it's skepticism. Okay, I'm now reading the question, and I don't have chat window in front of me for a while, so please don't type any questions there. Okay. Maz, you can ask your question later at the end of the session. Let me finish this one. Okay, it says that the Institute of, and I want you to fully concentrate, otherwise you will not understand what I'm discussing here. Skepticism is the professional skill, keep that in mind. So I have to maybe challenge, object, not believe some of the aspects. Let's see. The Institute of, I just added skepticism professional skill here. Look at here. So I am adding the professional skill, which we have to test. In the real exam, it will be written. Is that clear, Maz? You guys know that in the real exam, you will have professional skills very clearly mentioned. Yes? Please quickly confirm. So with each requirement, the examiner will tell you which skill is tested and for how many marks. Okay, great. The Institute of Independent Analysts, an examining body, is considering replacing its conventional assessment process with computer-based assessment, which produces instant results to candidates. A business case has been developed for the computer-based assessment project, figure 1. So this figure where the numbers are given is the business case. Figure 1 extracted from the business case shows the financial appraisal of the project. It uses a discount rate of 8%. The NPV of the project is 10,925. So let's have a look at the appraisal. So all figures are in nearest 3 zeros. Years are mentioned. So it's a typical NPV performer. You must have learned it in financial management, right? So here we are not making calculations of NPV. We are just commenting on the things which are mentioned here, whether we think they are okay. If we think they are not okay, we'll be challenging them, we'll be asking for more information. Okay, so we are given the costs, right? And then we have incomes, then we have total benefits, then you have net benefits, and discount factor is applicable, present values are calculated, and eventually the net present value is calculated based on these numbers, right? So NPV is 10.925, which means if you remove the rounding off, it is 10,925. Is that clear so far? And please tell me, what's the discount rate, by the way? The discount rate is 8%. Yes, excellent. Okay, now before I start the question, there is one thing I want to tell you, that for each cost mentioned here and for each income mentioned here, there are notes given in the question. Okay, here. So I will be looking at the figures and I'll be reading the notes for each cost and income element, and I'll just say whether it's right, or if I think if it's not right, I will, show my reservation, and that way I will be showing skepticism, right? But the first point I'm making is about this discount rate. Nowhere in the question it tells us that what is this discount rate. So anyone who knows what is the best discount rate to be used for investment appraisal? The best discount rate to be used for investment appraisal should be weighted average cost of capital. Excellent. But the question doesn't say if it is WACC or if it is not. And look at the NPV. Is it like too big? 10,925 compared to what you have been calculating. It's a very small NPV. Can I say it's positive, but it's very small. So do you saw what skepticism I'm going to show here? Can you guess that? So I have to show skepticism, as well as I have to critically evaluate my business case. So what do you think? Can you guess what I'm thinking about this discount rate? Anything? So can I start that I as the somebody who is evaluating, so I don't know whether it's weighted average cost of capital or not. So maybe, so it can be, I'm not saying that this definitely is proven, but it can be that the discount rate is artificially set a little lower so that the NPV is positive. Okay, there is one more thing I want to ask you. Do you know that when the discount rate goes up, the NPV goes down? And if the discount rate is lower, the NPV is higher. Can you learn this if you don't already know that? So maybe this discount rate is artificially set at a lower value or is manipulated a little bit so that the NPV is a positive number or is the bigger number so that the project is accepted. And why am I showing this skepticism so much? I mean, one reason, because the skepticism skill is there. The second reason is that I have to critically evaluate this business case and I have to show all my concerns. And when I show my concerns, it automatically demonstrates skepticism. So you can write by saying that the discount rate used is 8%. It's not mentioned that whether it's weighted average cost of capital. It can be that it is manipulated and set a little lower so that the NPV is a positive value and the project is accepted, because especially the NPV is so small. If it was a bigger figure, maybe in millions of dollars, then I might have said that this is not a valid point. But here it can be that a little change in discount rate can affect the NPV and can make it negative. Is that clear? Is that clear? So do you think naturally when I write this point, there will be a lot of skepticism very prominent in my point? So I will get technical marks and I will get professional skill marks as well. So this is how we have to go about this question. No, the NPV is 10,000 only, because this value is not rounded off. The values in the pro forma, look at this figure, 10.925 multiplied by 3 zeros will give you 10,925. Munib, is that clear? It is 10,000, almost 10,925. Yeah. So I hope this point is clear. The point on discount rate. Okay, the next I am going to be picking up each cost and will be reading the relevant note. So initial software cost is 200,000. Now this is rounded off, right? And 200,000, a total of 400,000 split into years. And the note for initial software cost is given here. I'm reading it. Everyone, please read with me. It says that initial software cost refers to the cost of buying the computer-based assessment software package from the vendor. The software actually costs 375, but a further 25,000 has been added to reflect bespoke changes which the IIA requires. These changes are not yet agreed or defined in detail. Indeed, there have been some problems in actually specifying these requirements and understanding how they will affect the administrative process. Okay, now very quickly, guys, can you please tell me if this is correct, the 400,000 figure? So initial investment is 200 plus 200, but this is not okay. So how am I going to write this? I will write that the total software cost is 400,000. Out of this, 375 is confirmed, but 25,000 is bespoke, which are not defined in detail, which are not confirmed. So how can they write 400,000 here? That's what you have to say. And that shows skepticism also, that you're not believing what is written here. You're showing off your broader knowledge and also the skepticism. And can I say that 25,000 bespoke changes, this cost can increase, and if it increases, it will have an effect on NPV. The NPV will become smaller, which is already a small positive figure. So talk about the impact on NPV as well. So it should have been 375. The 25 is not confirmed. So maybe, you can also write this line at the end, that we need to further investigate this. We need more information to be sure what the final cost of the software is. So this line can be added in your answer, that we need more information to be sure about the final cost. But do talk about the impact on NPV. Okay, guys, we're kind of very short on time. So I'm going to pick up one or two more points, and then I will leave the rest of the question on you. I will share the standard answers, which you can read later, but try to make sense of the figures with me quickly. One or two, maybe more. Software maintenance cost, everyone, is what? 40,000 each year from year 2 to year 7, right? And the note is given here. Software maintenance, this will be priced at 10% of the final cost of the delivered software. This currently estimated at 400,000, hence a cost of 40 per annum. Any objections that this is also not very right? So maintenance cost is 10% of the final software cost, but the final software cost is not final. Do you understand what I'm saying? No, it's not about inflation, guys. It's about initial software cost is still we're not sure. It's still confusing. We don't know if it's 400,000 or more. Do you understand? So 10% of something which is not confirmed, how can we say that the maintenance cost is going to be 40,000? And yes, then inflation aspect can be discussed later. But the main thing which you have to discuss is that the cost is not final yet. Is that clear? So again, as long as we're not sure about initial software cost, we cannot be sure about software maintenance. It can be higher, right? And that can have an impact on NPV. It will become smaller. So talk about the impact on NPV. Talk about that you need further information or confirmation about the initial software cost. Yeah, so I think year 2 onwards is the operational year. So Rabia, that's why maybe maintenance is added from year 2 onwards. It looks like that year 2 onwards is the main operational years. All right, guys, one more point and then we'll end this question. The rest of the question I will be leaving on you because we're kind of running out of time. Is that okay? Basically, I wanted to give you the idea of how to write your technical point and demonstrate skepticism. I think this is very clear-cut skepticism going on here, isn't it? We're not believing everything which is written here. Or maybe you can stop here and I'll leave the rest of the question for you. So maybe you can figure out the rest of the points and think about your own skepticism. And tomorrow I will give you the standard answers, read from the standard answer and compare your points. Is that okay for everyone? So each cost element and income element needs to be discussed like this. So there might be some things which are clear. There are few things which are not. So for example, just one more thing. Let's talk about the security here. Security, 20,000 each year. The fourth cost element, right? And this note say that security refers to security provided by a computer-based assessment at computer-based centers. The price has already been agreed with an established security firm who have guaranteed it for the duration of the project. So do you think this is a definite cost, considering what we know about the security? So excellent, Fizza. That security looks fine because it is guaranteed. So this is a definite cost. So not writing something negative about every point, that is also the part of skepticism. That whatever is right, you say that it's okay. And wherever you see some problem, you challenge that. You ask for more information and you say that it will have an impact on NPV. So security is definite. So there are other costs and incomes. Please go through this question, complete all the points, and I will share the standard answer. And then if there is any confusion, you can ask later. Okay, the study plan I will share at the end of the sessions. Fizza, you were asking about the study plan. So at the end of the sessions on Friday, hopefully. All right. Yeah, you can write that security figure is confirmed. So there is no problem in adding it to the NPV performer. So is that clear? Okay. So maybe you can go through the technical article on formats and try to complete your notes or your textbook, which you are currently considering. Try to complete that in this week along with the sessions. Yeah, so whatever notes or study text you're using, complete that in this week and maybe keep the rest of the days for practice. And for practice, I will share a study plan that how you should go about a particular case study. Asma, I don't think they will be available on YouTube. I think the ACCA person can confirm when the video lectures will be available for you to view later. So we can ask this question tomorrow at the beginning, and yes, you got your answer. So all recordings will be available. Oh, it's available on YouTube. I'm so sorry. I thought it's another platform, but yes, it's YouTube. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay, now guys, if you have any final questions for right now, you can ask. Maybe we can do a question and answer session tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a better day in terms of time management because I'll have to do a past exam paper straight away, one case study, not a lot of, fancy elements just like today. So it will be better tomorrow, but definitely if there are any questions which you may have, we can discuss them tomorrow as well. All right. So if there are no more questions, we will be doing September 2018 past exam tomorrow. It's called Cuffold Construction Company. Okay. Yeah, you can read it in advance, but that's the whole idea that tomorrow I'm going to be reading it with you, how to read and extract information. So reading, planning, writing, all techniques will be discussed. But if you want to read it in advance, that's great. Do it. All right, then, if there are no more questions, I would say thank you very much for today. I'll see you tomorrow. And then we'll learn more about what SBL is. Thank you very much. Take care and goodbye. Thank you.